2 weeks ago, something so insane happened that I still can't fully process it. I never imagined my wedding day, one of the most important days of my life, would turn into a scene straight out of a soap opera. But here we are. Let me introduce myself. I'm 29 and I recently married my amazing husband, 30M. He's the love of my life, the first man I ever truly trusted after a horrible experience with my ex. He's everything I ever wanted: kind, supportive, and fiercely loyal. But as much as this story is about love and new beginnings, it's also about betrayal, pettiness, and some seriously wild karma. And that brings us to the villain of this story, my husband's sister, 34. From the moment we met, she made it crystal clear she didn't like me. Why? I have no clue. I never did anything to her, but she always found ways to take jabs at me. She's the queen of backhanded compliments, always with a smug little smirk. "Oh wow, you look surprisingly decent for someone who didn't grow up wealthy. At least you're smart, because your looks wouldn't have gotten you anywhere." Yeah, she's that type of person. I honestly tried to be the bigger person. I smiled, I ignored her passive-aggressive remarks, and I never stooped to her level. My husband always had my back and defended me, but over time, I stopped reacting altogether. I didn't want to be the reason for a rift between him and his family. I knew my worth, and I was secure in my relationship. Her words never shook me. But then, we got engaged, and she lost it. I thought maybe if I included her in the wedding planning, it would help ease whatever weird tension she had with me. Maybe she'd see that I wasn't the enemy. Big mistake. She was a complete nightmare, criticizing everything, questioning my choices, and throwing tantrums when she didn't get her way. She actually had a meltdown because I chose my best friend as my maid of honor instead of her. Like, what? We weren't even close. Eventually, I put my foot down and told her to back off. My husband supported me 100%, but even he was shocked at how far she took things. I thought that was the worst of it. I thought she'd get over it. I was so wrong. My wedding day finally arrived, and I was determined to focus on what really mattered: marrying the love of my life. My SIL was the least of my worries. She was conveniently late, which honestly felt like a blessing. The less drama, the better. But then she showed up, and she wasn't alone. She brought him, my abusive ex. My heart nearly stopped. For context, my ex was my first serious boyfriend, and he was a monster behind closed doors. He was charming in public, but in private, he was controlling, cruel, and emotionally abusive. The relationship ended when I caught him cheating. When I confronted him, he not only denied everything, but also humiliated me in front of mutual friends, making me question my worth for years. It took so much work to rebuild my confidence. My husband is the complete opposite of him: loyal, patient, and loving. But seeing my ex at my wedding felt like a gut punch. I didn't want to cause a scene, so I pulled my SIL aside and asked her what the hell she was thinking. And do you know what she did? She smirked. "Oh, come on. You should be over it by now," she said casually, like it was nothing. Like my trauma was some minor inconvenience. It was obvious she had planned this. She wanted to shake me. She wanted to ruin my day. My husband was furious. He wanted to throw both of them out immediately. But as much as I wanted that too, I asked him not to. Not because I was okay with it, but because I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I wasn't going to let her win. This was our day. But karma? Karma had other plans. An hour into the reception, my SIL was basking in her little victory, thinking she had successfully ruined my wedding. And then her long-distance boyfriend showed up. See, my husband had secretly invited him as a sweet surprise for her. They hadn't seen each other in months, and he thought it would make her happy. He had no idea what was about to unfold. The moment her boyfriend walked in and saw her with my ex, something in his expression changed. He went pale, his jaw clenched. And then, in front of the entire reception, he grabbed the mic and called for everyone's attention. Silence fell over the room. And then, he exposed everything. He revealed that their relationship had been on the rocks for months, that he had suspected she was cheating, and that recently, he had logged into her social media, and what he found proved his worst fears. Messages, photos, evidence. She had been seeing multiple men behind his back. And guess who was one of them? My ex. Gasps filled the room. All eyes were on my SIL, who sat there frozen like a deer in headlights. Her boyfriend, well ex now, looked her dead in the eye and called her a liar, a manipulator, and a cheater. He said she and my ex deserved each other. And then, in the most dramatic mic drop moment I have ever witnessed, he literally dropped the microphone on the floor and stormed out. The silence that followed was deafening. My SIL burst into tears, trying to defend herself, but no one was listening. Some people awkwardly turned away, pretending not to notice. Others whispered among themselves, shaking their heads. And me? I just sat back and sipped my champagne. After the wedding, my SIL went into full damage control mode. She tried to blame everyone but herself. First, she claimed her boyfriend was lying. When that didn't work, she said I had somehow orchestrated this whole thing to embarrass her. Really? Then she tried playing the victim card, saying we humiliated her on her brother's wedding day. No one bought it. My husband officially cut her off after that. He told her that after everything she pulled, he was done trying to mend their relationship. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. The wedding may have had more drama than expected, but at the end of the day, I married the love of my life. And my SIL, well, let's just say karma has a way of dealing with people like her. Weddings are supposed to be joyous celebrations, a time for love, unity, and new beginnings. Unfortunately, mine came with an unexpected guest appearance by drama, starring none other than my sister-in-law, SIL. For those who missed my original post, my SIL decided to turn my special day into a scandalous spectacle. She was caught red-handed cheating on her boyfriend with my ex. If that wasn't shocking enough, my ex loudly proclaimed that he had no idea she was even in a relationship. The whole venue erupted into gasps and whispers. My SIL stood there, utterly humiliated, as judgmental stares burned into her. At that moment, my husband and I had enough. We had the venue staff escort both my SIL and my ex out. The rest of the night was admittedly a little awkward, but we did our best to salvage it. You'd think that after being caught in such a scandal, my SIL would take time to reflect and maybe apologize. But no, she decided to double down on her victim act. Barely 24 hours after the wedding, my phone was flooded with calls and messages. It was my SIL desperately trying to clear her name. Apparently, she thought if she just explained things, everything would magically be okay. One of her wildest accusations? That I had set her up by inviting her boyfriend. Mind you, my husband had invited him as a kind gesture. Neither of us had any idea my ex would show up, and certainly, we weren't the ones sneaking around behind someone's back. But according to her twisted logic, this was somehow all my fault. She begged me to tell the family it was all a misunderstanding, that she didn't know my ex was going to be there, that she wasn't really cheating. But honestly, I didn't even care enough to hear her excuses. Some family members urged me to at least listen to her side. They argued that family is family, and that I should be willing to forgive. But why should I? This wasn't an accidental slip-up. She had willfully lied, cheated, and then tried to pin the blame on me when she got caught. Unlike me, my husband still held out hope that his sister might take some accountability. So he gave her an ultimatum. She wasn't welcome in our lives unless she made a genuine apology, not just to me, but to everyone she had dragged into her mess. Instead of taking responsibility, she lashed out, claiming I had stolen her brother, whatever that means. Then came her most ridiculous excuse yet. She insisted that if I hadn't mentioned my ex's name at the wedding, she wouldn't have even realized who he was. The audacity. She was literally caught making out with him, yet somehow this was still my fault? That was the last straw for my husband. He cut her off entirely, making it clear that until she took real accountability, he wanted nothing to do with her. Her parents were livid. They felt she had embarrassed the entire family, and for the first time, they actually held her accountable by cutting her off financially. It turns out, my SIL had been relying on them for years because she couldn't keep a stable job. Without their financial support, she was left scrambling. She tried to move back in with them, but they refused. Now, she's couch surfing with friends, jumping from place to place because she has nowhere stable to stay. You'd think this would finally make her reflect on her choices. But nope, she was too busy playing the victim. Then came an unexpected twist. My SIL's now ex-boyfriend reached out to my husband. At first, he apologized for causing a scene at our wedding, but he admitted he had no regrets. He couldn't stand by quietly while watching her betray him so publicly. Then he dropped a bombshell. She had been dodging his calls and avoiding him for weeks before the wedding. She always had an excuse: work, family, personal stuff. But in reality, she had been using his money to fund her dates with other men. Now he was considering legal action against her to recover the money she took under false pretenses. As for my ex, apparently, he had no idea SIL was in a relationship. Whether that's true or not, I honestly don't care. They both deserve each other. But my ex wasn't done yet. He started lurking on my social media, liking old posts and even trying to message me. He probably wanted to talk or explain himself. Blocked. No second chances. No curiosity about what he had to say. I was done. Just when I thought things couldn't get more ridiculous, my SIL escalated her antics. She started spreading wild conspiracy theories among mutual friends. According to her, I had orchestrated the entire thing to ruin her life. That I had deliberately invited her boyfriend, tipped off my ex, and planned for everything to unfold in public. As if I had nothing better to do on my own wedding day than plot against her. Luckily, most people saw through her nonsense. But she didn't stop there. She showed up at a family gathering and picked a fight with my husband's youngest sibling, demanding that they convince him to forgive her. When that didn't work, she stormed out in dramatic fashion. At this point, I had zero sympathy left. She wanted to ruin my wedding, but all she did was expose herself to everyone. Looking back, I see this whole disaster for what it really was: a lesson in boundaries and accountability. My SIL had spent years getting away with selfish, reckless behavior because her family enabled her. But this time, no one was making excuses. No one was covering for her. And without people to shield her from the consequences, she was forced to face them head on. My husband and I are stronger than ever, and we refuse to let her toxicity back into our lives. She made her bed. Now she has to lie in it.